Welcome to the Run Radio podcast. My name's Trina, and in the writer's room today, Pat Wetzel joins us. Hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you. It's really nice to be here.
I am glad to have you. I'm glad to talk about this very familiar path that we all travel called, your book is called A Bump in the Road. So talk to me about this, because even though it's something we all go through, it's also something we all almost feel ashamed of when we come up on these bumps. So tell me why you chose to talk about this and a little about your writing experience.
Well, I had hit so many bumps in the road myself that when travel closed down in 2020, I thought, what am I going to do? I had a travel and film project that was put on indefinite hold. The funding was pulled. And so I decided to start a podcast. And the idea of bump in the road just came to me. And it seems so perfect. So I've been doing bump. I'm on my fourth year now. And what happened was, after about a year and a half of doing this, I saw that there was so much wisdom in the stories of my guests. Now, I have a unique vantage point, the 30,000-foot view, because I, engage with absolutely everybody. And I started seeing a lot of commonalities between the stories, threads that would hold for all of us. And as I looked at that, I thought, this wisdom just has to be shared in another way. And that's what really generated the book, Bump in the Road, which is the first in a series of books about various bumps in the road. The next book will be Bump in the Road, Strong Women.
Oh, excellent. So what were some of your early guests like? Was it really easy for them to share, or did they have a hard time kind of opening up and being vulnerable?
Well, I totally cheated. I called people I knew.
Fair enough.
Because I'd never had a podcast. I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know anything about distribution or the technical aspects of this. I didn't know if anybody would listen. I didn't know if I could get any guests. So I started off with a close circle of people who had great stories to tell. And then it just expanded to this year, where I have so many requests to be on the podcast that I've really stopped taking requests for a while, because I'm booking into, I think it's April of 2024.
That's a great problem to have. That really is.
It is, but I feel really badly because everybody I talk to has such a great story. And I hear another great story every day or so. It's like, oh, I want to fit you in too. But I can't. I have to kind of stick to the once a week format, because with the book and everything else that's going on, I need some time to focus on that.
When you're going through and hearing these stories, it probably makes you think a lot of your own path. Have you shared your own stories in the book as well?
I shared some of my stories. I spent about a decade and a half flying high performance sailplanes, um, airplanes without engines, huge 15 to 20 meter wings. And these things can soar hundreds of miles. It's incredible. And they have no engine. So it's just a fantastic sport. And I told some of my sports stories throughout the book to relate to each chapter, because each chapter had a major theme. It might have been identity, it might have been transition or change. And certainly I've been through all of those things. So my story is partly to introduce me, but also to relate to the stories of my guests.
What was one of the nearly insurmountable bumps that you had come across your path?
Which one?
So they were all pretty huge, huh?
Yeah, I've really gotten slammed by more than a few bumps. But I would say learning to fly was a bump. I never anticipated doing it. It opened up a huge, it took me totally out of my comfort zone, opened up a huge world that I never knew existed. And it totally hooked me. But it was a bump in that I was the only woman at the airfield at the time with a hot plane. It was a very male domain. Breaking into it was never complete and not easy. So, even flying, as wonderful as it was, had its own series of bumps.
What do you think is one of the best ways to get through those? I mean, do you think it's tenacity? Do you think it's self-reflection? What do you think is that special ingredient that all of your guests and that you have in common, or is there one?
I think tenacity is part of it. I think for me, passion was part of it. I wanted to fly more than anything. I wanted to fly, and nothing was going to get in the way because I was so passion driven. And I think that most of my guests ultimately get to a point of finding passion for authenticity, for their true path, for really kind of stripping away those outer layers of identity that we all have to find their true selves. And I think that that's actually a path of passion as well.
Let's take a turn a little bit on the book and how you got the stories together. Did you have people submit their writings, or did you take what they told you and transcribe? How did that work for you?
The book originally was twice as big as it is. I have so many good stories, so I
Yes.
had to cut it. I had to cut it down.
Oh,
I actually went through all the podcasts, chose some of the ones I wanted for the book, had everything transcribed, and then wrote about the person and their story, and included an edited transcript of part of our conversation. The full conversations are available through a special readers portal on the website where you can sign in, listen to the entire podcast. And some of the podcasts are by subscription only. So it's kind of a neat thing. And there's also a workbook there that goes along with Bump in the Road.
what was one of your biggest challenges with the book?
Letting go of it.
Oh,
I
really?
think, yeah, I think that I can go back now. I would edit some things and do some things differently. I think everybody always feels that way. But I think you get to a point where you have to say, this is this is good. It's everybody really likes it. Actually, it hit Amazon bestseller rank, so I'm really pleased about that. But I think you have to get to a point where you say, I've done a good job. I know I've learned a lot. It's time to let go of this one and apply everything I've learned to the next book.
Did you learn some things through the podcasts and stories for your
Oh,
own life?
I learned from everybody I talk to. I mean, people have such amazing stories. And the thing that's so interesting about a bump in the road is we all have the same emotions. So ultimately, we all actually experience the same bumps, just the circumstances are different. I might experience it going through an illness. You might experience it going through a work-related situation. If you can find, it's all about the common emotion. And I think
Mhm.
that's really what ties all the stories together.
That's fantastic. And tell me a little bit about your life again before you decided to write the book and do the podcast. What were you doing, and what made you tick?
I was traveling, actually. I had sold my house. I ran into a business issue with a prior business where a business partner walked off with very significant intellectual property, which essentially crashed the business. I had just been through 6 years of cancer treatment at that point, and I had just had it. I just couldn't take any more. So I decided to sell my house, my beautiful, perfect house, put everything in storage, and go traveling. And I did. And it was the most non-linear, nonsensical, best thing I've ever done.
Really? So you're out here living this new way of life and the world shuts down. I mean, what is going through your mind when that's happening?
Everything I've worked for the last 2 years is now on hold again. I mean, it was really a significant bump. Oh, tell me about it. I hid in bed under this nice big fluffy comforter with potato chips for 2 weeks.
Oh my
But
goodness.
that is not a remedy. That's not a long-term remedy.
No.
So that's when I started thinking, I put together the social media audience and I couldn't have the whole thing fall apart. So that's part of what motivated me to start the podcast. And the podcast has been so amazing because I meet people from all over the world with great stories, and I get to have meaningful conversations every week. I
Yes.
think that's really special. I love that part of it.
I know that we've had so many bad things from this, but if you try to pull the silver lining, it has been that it forced us to use the technology we already had and
Mhm.
let us have these conversations that we would have never had using the
Oh, and
Zoom conversations and what.
I've been using Zoom for many years, and I am
Mm-hmm.
so pleased that it's finally kind of in the common parlance because
Yes.
now people are comfortable meeting on Zoom.
Yes.
Before it was a little too techy or strange. Now it's just mainstream, and I think
Yes.
that's fabulous.
Good. What are some other things that you've seen that you thought, oh no, this is going to be a bad thing, but they surprise you or a pleasant change for you?
All bumps are potentially pleasant changes. You
Ah.
just need a little perspective and a little
Mm-hmm.
time to see it all. When I went through my divorce, I thought that was the end of the world in many ways. It was a deeply, deeply hurtful experience on so many levels. But it actually turned out to be maybe one of the best things that could have happened to me because it opened my world to incredible adventure and people and places that I would not have had. So I really think the key to any bump in the road is it's up to you to decide how you're going to view it. Now, you can't always do that in the moment. I mean, in the moment, you're so wrapped up in the upset and the emotion and all the events that are happening, just swirling around you. The one thing I would say is get your feet down again. And no matter how down you feel, and you can feel really down when you hit some of these bumps, find a way to put one foot in front of the other. Put some energy into the equation because that energy will start you down another path. And if it's not the right path, don't worry, you'll figure that out. But the key is to get moving again. And as you get moving, new things will come up. And then with a little distance, it's time to reflect, I think, and try to find how this can work to your benefit because it has to.
Yeah. Those are very wise words. So, when is your next book coming out in the series?
I am hoping 2024. I think that's a
Okay,
doable time frame. I'm not going to say when in 2024, but
sure.
probably about a year from now. I'm working on getting the layout, the interior layout, kind of standardized because it will be part of a series. So I want people to be able to pick up a bump in the road book and kind of know what to expect. The topics will be different, but I want there to be some continuity between the books.
And how often you said once a week your podcasts come out?
Yeah, yeah. Every Wednesday I publish them.
Every Wednesday. Okay. What else keeps you going? Do you have a certain routine, meditation, walking, running that keeps your creative juices flowing?
Meditation, hands down. Every morning
Really?
I wake
Tell me
up.
about that.
Oh, yeah. I've been meditating for about 15 years now, and it is the one thing in life I could not live without. I wake up every morning, brush my teeth and whatnot. I find 5 things to be grateful for, and they have to be different every day. You can't repeat the same
Oh,
list.
okay.
And I usually read a little something inspirational. Gary Hensel is one of my favorite authors for short bursts of inspiration. And then I meditate for about half an hour, sometimes longer. Um, Meditation is totally game changing in that when you learn to quiet your mind, you now have the opportunity to observe your thoughts. You can't
Hmm.
do that until you learn quiet. And when you observe your thoughts, now you have the power of choice. What do you choose? And the other piece of meditation that people don't realize, I think, is that it's very experiential. And I
Oh,
liken it to eating chocolate. Okay. If you read about eating chocolate, it really means nothing. You can read all day and you're not going to get it. But if you eat chocolate and all the different kinds of chocolate and the different combinations, it opens up a whole new world because you experience it. Meditation is the same thing. You can read about it or have an opinion or this or that, but until you do it, you don't have the experience. And when you have an experience of profound peace, you carry that with you into the rest of your life. And that's the power of meditation.
ooh, that's good. I love the analogy. How did it take you a while to work up to your half hour, or were you able to go right into that? How did it form for you?
I was under a massive amount of stress in my life, a recurrent cancer, the neighbors from hell. It was like one thing after redoing the backyard because of the neighbors from hell. It was just one
Oh,
thing after another. And finally, actually, one night, I found myself standing out in the rubble that used to be in my backyard because it was all getting re-landscaped. And I looked up at the stars And all I could hear was this boom, boom, boom from the neighbors next door, the neighbors from hell. Their stereo was so loud, it would suck my living room windows in and out. And no amount of pleading with them would get them to quiet down. So I stood out in my yard and I looked up at the sky. I'm dealing with a possible transplant because of cancer and a whole host of other things. And I just screamed. And I screamed and I screamed. And of course, nobody could hear me because the stereo is going boom, 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 boom. Well, a few weeks later, I saw an ad for a meditation series at the museum. And I signed up just thinking I have to do something. My stress is so far off the charts that you couldn't even measure it at this point. And the gentleman who ran it studied with Maharishi in Europe. And every week he took us through a different type of meditation. And at the end of the series, I decided I have got to do something. So I signed up for a transcendental meditation class, and I absolutely committed to 2 20-minute periods a day, no matter what. I didn't care what was going on or where I was or anything else. I committed to that. And that is how my meditation practice started.
Excellent. Would you have any advice for someone that might set aside the time but fall asleep or something like that? Do you have any little tidbits of wisdom to stick with it if that happens?
Yeah, it's all okay. Start again tomorrow. Falling asleep is not the end of the world. We've all done it. I think that the key, there's a book by Victor Davovich, I think it is. It's called 8-Minute Meditation. Pick it up. It's brilliant. He takes you through a different type of meditation every week. So you're getting a sampling. He only asks for 8 minutes. So as you're going through this book, you're experiencing different things and you're building a habit. So at the end of I don't know if it's 1 or 2 months or how long the book, what kind of time period the book covers. But at the end of the period, now you have this habit and you can find a type of meditation that works for you. You can find meditation through sound, in nature, in activity. Meditation, there's a type of meditation for absolutely everybody.
Yeah. I think that's something too that we need to hear more of, because a lot of times people think it has to be done one particular way. And it's not. When I learned there was walking meditation, I thought, okay, now
Yeah.
this is something I can connect more to. And I definitely have felt very connected when I'm running in a way that I never do with any other activity or stillness. So I'm glad you shared that. All right. I think this is fantastic. I hope you'll come back when you have your next book out. Tell people all the websites, all the good stuff where they can get your book and keep up with you so they know where these great stories are.
Thank you. The book is on Amazon. The website, come on over to the website. There's so much information there, including my side trips, which are 5-minute podcasts. They're also on all major podcast platforms. But what happened was as a host, I listened to my guests. I wanted to have some say in things. So I started these short 5-minute podcasts. They're on the website. The website is bumpintheroad.us, just bumpintheroad.us. That's a great starting point for your explorations.
Sounds great. Fantastic. Thank you for sharing, Pat. Be sure you're listening and watching at runradio.net.